Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, I am coming back to these gorgeous Layer It Up washi tapes from AALL and Create. Now, if you have not seen these before, this is a couple that I purchased quite a long time ago, honestly now, and there are so many different designs out at this point. But it's really important to use what we have, and I do want to show you that actually this is what these gorgeous washi tapes create. If you haven't seen it already, the typewriter is called Still Unwritten. This gorgeous one here is called Sugar Roll, and then the Flamingo, this one is called Flamingo Go Go. And so I have done quite a few videos actually showing how to use these, and I just want to have this is sort of a quick version of how you go about using them. Now, when you pull out the washi tape, you'll notice sort of where the in-between is, and they're meant to be torn and ripped, and I've done lots of videos before using these, again, where I show how to use them, and obviously I show finished cards, and so you can see a lot more inspiration. Also on the AALL and Create website, when you click on the product, they have lots of examples there if you want to check those out. Also, you can do a Google image search and type in the product that you're after, for example, these washi tapes, and they will also give you, obviously, lots of ideas on how to use them. So these just layer up really, really nicely. I'm just putting this down onto some plain cardstock. You can see it's not super difficult to get a really nice, sort of even lined up look. You know, you don't have to be absolutely perfection. It's very, very obvious where they go, and it's very easy to see where to tear. And you can pop them back up again if need be, if you're not quite sure. But also, I love the fact, most of all, that you can't see the joins. That's what I was worried about when I purchased my first couple of these. And I thought, I'm just not sure if I like it, if it's really obvious that, you know, it was put together with washi, and is it going to stay put, were the two things that I thought about most. And so, as I said, I've mentioned it in previous videos, they stay beautifully. You cannot see the layers. These are an awesome product if you don't want to invest in, you know, stamps and coloring and dyes and all those things. This just gives you another option. For example, a typewriter is not something I would feel super confident in coloring in every time if I had a stamp. However, this just means that, yeah, I can stick it down and go and not be too worried about it. Now, one fun thing is, when I showed these, obviously one of my beautiful, lovely subscribers thought that she had one in her stash that she was either no longer using. I won't mention her by name, but nonetheless, I absolutely love these washi tapes, and I absolutely love this design. This one is called Leaf Out of My Book, and to start with, I'm actually creating a bit of a background just to help this sort of all melt in to the background, because obviously you're popping washi tape on top of it. So I did an extremely rough layer of warm cocoa, which is just a mid-brown ink, I would say. It's a dye ink. No, I wouldn't say it's sort of ink blending. It's more just, you know, putting ink down on there. Then to just keep it sort of nice and rustic, I'm going to add a few of the brown splashes. I'm not so worried about the inside because the actual image is going to cover that up pretty well, but I'm really just going for the outside here. Now, I will say when I got this roll, it was actually like it was uneven, so it had already started one strip in. Now, you could just start sort of halfway down, but that is the reason, exactly how this came, is the reason that I came up with what I wanted to do today. Because obviously these pictures are absolutely stunning, and they stand by themselves beautifully, but it's always fun to add just a little bit more interest to them. And how do you do that? Well, we're going to do that today. So I took a scrap piece of paper, used the first 3 pieces off here, which gave me the about 3/4 of the image. Most of these layer it ups, I think, are 4 pieces. If not 5, but usually 4 or so. And again, they layer together really, really easily. So there's some beautiful books, there's some, I was going to call them potions, but little bottles, you know, perhaps an ink bottle. This is an absolutely gorgeous, I mean, any book lover or anything like that would love that, would love this kind of card. I think this would make a great birthday card, a great any occasion for celebration, and particularly sometimes I can find it harder to find for slightly older generations, the males in the older generations. I can find, you know, the cars and things, which my usual go-to is motorbikes. and tools and toolboxes and fishing, etc. And then I just thought this one would really fit in perfectly. I had a couple of people in mind, a couple of special people that have bigger birthdays coming up soon. So for this one, I'm going to tear the edges. Now, I'm actually not tearing at the edge of the washi tape. You can still see that background that I have created there. This is just what I'm going to tear to put on my card base. So absolutely, it is very tricky to see the edges of the washi tape. It's all melted in really nicely into that background that I have created. The card that I'm holding behind it is a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. And so now that I've got this other one over here, I'm thinking a couple of things. I'm like, okay, let's make this a little more, we'll jazz it up just a little bit. And I have this other piece that I use the first 3 strips of the washi on. I'm going to go around all of the edges just with a little bit more ink to sort of darken it up and almost like a little bit of framing for it. I quite like that. And then this is where I got the idea of what to do with that extra little piece. So again, just to add some little bit of shine or, jazz to it, I'm going to add a little bit of gold thread that can go around the center. I usually just cut off a good chunk and then I'll pop a couple of little pieces of double-sided tape in behind the main image that I'm hoping to pop it on. And then I wind it all the way around and around and around, and I catch it again on that double-sided tape to make sure that it's in place. And then usually I will put one, if not a couple of pieces of double-sided tape over top so that I know it's not going to come loose. And then I'll bend back the end of the threads right back over and double tape them down so that I know that even if someone pulls on them or they get, accidentally snagged in something, I know that they're not going to come out, slip out from the double-sided tape behind them, if that makes sense. And so I'm just making sure that these are nice and secure. I'm happy with the image. I'm happy with all of the ripping. I did tear the ripping away from the image essentially, and that means that I avoid that white ripping line. If you like that and you want to color it, then I suggest you do it towards you. Have a play around with the grain of your paper. That's also going to help tell you which way you're going to get the best look for you, but there's definitely a choice between, being able to see that white core and then not being able to see it essentially. So I did put this part here down flat onto my card. The gold twine is really, really thin. It's just a thread, a gold thread, and so it didn't create any bulk behind the card at all. And then at this point, I'm like, maybe we should make some sort of 2D and 3D or at least a few layers of each of these items. So I'm going to pick the items that I can quite easily cut out, and I'm just going to fussy cut them out. So I'm going to do the book and the bottle, but I am going to do them separately. And I'm just going to cut out around the outside of the bottle. None of these are too tricky. And then at this point, I was like, why not do a few layers? Because in particular, if you use the 1mm foam tape, which is just a really, really thin foam tape, I know that there are specific like decoupage glues that you can sort of, that can add that little bit of bulk. There's a little bit of dimension to them when they dry. You could also use those if that's what you have. You could use some foam dots. You could build up a little bit of cardstock behind each of these layers as well. But I really like that 1mm foam tape. It just is so super simple to use. So once I'm cutting out all of my elements, and then for the third element, I'm cutting out like the individual labels that go in the front of the bottles. Now I will say that at the end of this video, I have some close-up pictures which show this really, really well. It can be a little bit hard to see on camera, but absolutely, I think this is I love this card. I love how it turned out. It's sort of like, yeah, you see it and then you see it again and you think, oh, there's layers. You see more every time you look at it. Now, I did just want to quickly show you this foam tape here. This is the 2mm foam tape, and I would call this my regular go-to size. And then this one here on the left is going to be the 1mm foam tape. So you can just see that it's that little bit thinner, and therefore, I feel like I can add more layers. Like if I add 2 of the 2mm ones, it creates quite a lot of bulk, particularly if you're trying to get it in an envelope. If you don't have to pop it in an envelope, then go for gold. But you might want to build, your own custom envelope. However, I find that if I'm doing something I still need to fit in an envelope, then the 1mm is perfect. and it also comes in the 1/4 inch size as well. For this, I'm happy to cut down little pieces with my fussy cutting scissors with my cutter bees and pop them in behind. As I said to you, I've got little like the bottles, and then I've got the labels that go in front of the bottles as well. I've got a layer that's going to be the book. Some reverse tweezers are going to help me out a lot here. These are just tweezers that you squeeze to open, and then you can just let go of them, and as they release, they hold things so that you don't have to keep squeezing the whole time to keep your little piece of paper in between your tweezers. So these are very handy, and these are going to be some very little bits, some little labels that I pop on front of these bottles. So this is where it's going to get very fiddly. I've got a little label that goes across this one. I've got an extra little label that goes across the other bottle. So as I said, looking directly down onto this, it kind of doesn't look like too much more. But when you go from the side, you can see all of those beautiful layers, and I absolutely love this. Now, albeit this is going to be a birthday card, as I said, I have someone in mind who this is going to go to. I'm actually going to leave the front as is, and I'm going to pop a little sentiment and dress the inside of the card for this one. So, as I said, in the photos at the end, you can really see that beautiful dimension, but you can see it a little bit here too. And the gold thread catches the light a little bit, which is exactly its purpose. So in the middle here, I have this gorgeous, this is called Moonstruck, I think, and this is one of my favorites. I really love the sentiment that says, I've reached the age where it's a ballpark figure. And I quite like that. It's kind of like happy birthday, and it's not really important as well what exact number it is, unless maybe it's a big birthday. But yeah, I really like this one. And then I'm going to also, because I had a little bit extra from before from the washi tape, I thought, why not add this in here too? Now, I'm not going to add any dimension to this part because it is obviously the inside of the card. But I did think maybe I could just have sort of cut along and then have some of the figures coming out a little bit as well, and I will use this down the bottom. I could have cut out a couple of individual elements as well and popped them in the corners of the card. I quite like doing that. Often if I have spare strips or scraps that I want to that I've cut off from sides of cards, I'll pop those in the center as well. But this one, I didn't have anything left over like that, so I thought I'll just pop these bottom pieces on. Now, if you are enjoying this card, please give it a thumbs up and a like and all those good things. It helps us out here with this jolly algorithm on YouTube. I appreciate it very, very much. If you're interested in more Natasha content, then you can head over to natashafootecreative.com. There are a whole lot of free resources over there. I recently released my cut and goes, which you can literally just print out, cut, and be creating cards in minutes. These are completely free. You download them and print them out yourselves. I have designed everything really, really specifically so that they can be used in so many different ways. So head over there, natashafootecreative.com. There will always be a link down below as well. Other than that, let me know in the comment section down below if you've tried out some of these layering washies. They are amazing, and there is a really wide range, as I said. But other than that, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, bye.